right. Well, welcome to the special live training here on how to add 20 to 30 more clients for your virtual health practice in the next 60 days or less without giving up your freedom. And with me is my good friend Burhan Patel, coming to us live and in person
from Thailand.
from Bangkok, Thailand. Excellent. And I am in Taiwan. So you have Taiwan and Taitu.
Nice. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. So, Brown, how are you doing today?
Oh, good. Thanks. Excited to talk about what we're talking about today. It's a topic that's hot at the moment, obviously, with the medical professionals. But yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, great. So, as most people know, I have a call center that does lead follow up, and we are niched into the medical market, but also fitness as well. And absolutely, in the last 6 months, now 10 months, things have been changing quite a bit in the world and have made people go more online. Not that, if I think about it, it doesn't really change anything because we're still marketing to people. We're still trying to get them to take an action. It's just a matter of now using webinars versus live seminars.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, so what do you think is the biggest stumbling block? Because people still have issues. They're still late to the party.
Technology. I think that's that has to be
that's like the simple thing.
Well, of course, because think about, if you do a seminar, you are you invite your list. If you have a list, that's maybe we put a pin in that one, getting a list, and then or your existing clients, you run a couple Facebook ads, and you have a live seminar, and people show up for it.
Right. And it's in person, and people can walk in, and you can invite people with booklets and flyers and tell your friends, and yeah.
Versus a webinar, it becomes a little bit more scary. It's like, well, is anybody going to show up for my webinar?
Well, for me, one of the things is the internet is this sea, this ocean, this universe of stuff. So one is, people struggle with using computers. That's just in general. Sometimes even Word documents are challenging for some. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that now that everybody's sort of depending on or needing to use the internet as a source, as a a source of money, a source of business, a source of clients. It's kind of that the technology just in terms of using a computer. But then when you get into the complexities of, well, how do you attract people on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook or all of these different channels? This is where if you haven't paid attention to it over the last couple of years, you're going to struggle. And this is what we're seeing consistently.
Yep. And and what do you think is holding, and obviously you've spoken to quite a few doctors as well. What do you think is holding them back in terms of like just doing this or making that transition?
Well, one is time. So they're so busy with their clients already, with their current patient roster, whether it's insurance claims or just, the general day-to-day business stuff, that learning this new thing, learning this new skill, this new way of work is hard. It's hard to carve out even 30 minutes a day because there's just so much going on. And then on top of the political environment, on top of the health environment with COVID and all this stuff this year, it's even worse. And so those who don't have the time or haven't quite figured out how to get help are they're like being pushed further and further back. And that's just kind of one of the what's this hamster wheel
Yeah.
issues that is
Yeah.
happening right now.
Yep. Total hamster wheel. So, kind of what we want to go through today is really get some real learning,
Yeah.
obviously, because we want to make sure that there's some takeaways that people can implement in their business right now.
Mhm.
The first thing is so three things: lead generation.
Mhm.
Obviously, you need to get leads coming in. So, Burhan's really good about doing that, and we'll talk about getting leads in. But then once you have those leads in there and you've spent 5, 10, 15, 20, $50 a lead, whatever it happens to be, what do you do with it then? What type of automation is needed so that you are maximizing the value that you receive from that one lead? Because we'll go into this a little bit more detail, but a lot of people treat that lead as a one-time lead. I advertised for a webinar and they showed up or they didn't show up. Now what do I do with them?
Right.
Which is just ridiculous sometimes. And then the third part is then converting those leads. So obviously you're getting leads because you want to convert them into paying clients. So we'll go
Mhm.
into that little piece as well, which is kind of like what we do over here at Business Lead Maximizer. So what are some practical things that people can do right now to get more leads in their business?
Get help.
Get help. Honestly.
It's like the simple thing. Well, so what I said earlier is like people are struggling to learn it. What I would say is a practical piece of advice is just focus on Facebook. Like as a doctor, Facebook is your go-to place, especially with some of the uh, what can I say, diseases or some of the struggles that your clients are having. It's kind of the older generations, I would say, like 35s ups. And so most of that group of people are on Facebook, even the 70-year-olds, 60-year-olds, they are frequenting Facebook a
Mm-hmm.
lot.
Absolutely.
And so Facebook is the place. So just, you know, I'm saying I'm making it sound easy, but it's showing up consistently on Facebook, right? So doing a Facebook Live from your phone, talking about certain issues, so talking about how you can help people. Maybe you've got a meal plan, or maybe you have, free content that you can just openly share with people that's going to help them, that's going to benefit them in their life, just to start with this healthier lifestyle. And that does a couple of things. One is if you're consistent, Facebook is going to start showing you in the feed to more people with it that are in your area, that are in the same sort of interest group. So if somebody has already searched or follows a page talking about thyroid, or maybe another doctor, then chances are Facebook will show you in their feed. But the trick is to be consistent. So doing a Facebook Live every day, and then the content needs to build trust and value for people. So it's free. You want to be open. You want to be warm. You want to be loving. You want to be empathetic, compassionate, as doctors generally are. And so that warmth and that visibility then will give you a few touch points with the people across the screen that are looking on their phones or whatever, some what's the word, association with you. They'll start trusting you a little bit, and they'll maybe communicate. They'll start engaging with your posts, or they'll start interacting with you.
Nice. Nice. So that's all like organic stuff. That's not even paid, right?
Correct.
Yeah, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's like the free solution. There are obviously things you can do to boost your posts, provided you're doing it properly, to reach more people, because reach is a big issue on Facebook. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
it's the sort of one of the hardest places to get organic traffic. But that's why I say, if you're doing it often, then Facebook is going to recognize that, and then it will help you out. It won't give you as much as if you paid Facebook, or advertised a little bit. But the trick is with all content, no matter what platform, is to be consistent. And if you are consistent, then the platform rewards you for that.
That's consistent. I'm typing this in the comments on Facebook, since we're doing a Facebook Live here, so
Nice.
that people can get those little nuggets that you're dropping there. Yeah, so yeah, because everybody, I mean, for the most part, it's a brick and mortar, but with the laws that are in the states, a lot of the doctors can only practice in a state, and so. Right. Even though, I mean, even with telemedicine, it's just ridiculous. Somebody was telling me that if they go across the state border and then make the phone call, then it's okay.
Oh,
even though they live in a different state. And it's the same, like a physical, like if somebody lives in, uh, um, especially in the Northeast where the states are really close together. Somebody lives in Pennsylvania, like Philadelphia, but wants to see a doctor in New York. They can travel to New York and see the doctor, even though they live in Pennsylvania. But the doctor can't travel from Pennsylvania or from New York over to Pennsylvania and see the same patient. Yeah, and can't make a phone call to them either because they're.
Wow.
Yeah, which is
that's quite restrictive. But that's the insurance model, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the model where
not necessarily insurance. No, that's regulation.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's licensing and all that.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, what a lot of the functional medicine doctors are doing is getting away from the medical advice and doing more coaching and health coaching, which then that's completely unregulated. But that also limits what a lot of the things that they can do as well in terms of what makes them special. But yeah, so attracting more leads, right? So what other, so Facebook, obviously, Instagram, all the social media is being consistent and persistent with the reach and the content. Yep. Cool.
And webinars are just another form of content.
Yep.
Right. It's just the only difference between a webinar and maybe a Facebook Live is you're asking people for the email addresses. And so that leads into, well, people need to register. So there's a bit of a wall there, almost like a paywall, a gateway that they need to go through, which is the exchange.
Yep.
And the idea of doing that is to collect email addresses.
Yep.
And that's what you referred to earlier as building the list.
Yep.
And so when you start collecting email addresses, now you have an asset. Now you have, similar to back in the day when you have seminars, you'd collected their phone numbers. And so you would call up, follow up with them afterwards with the phone number and say, hey, thank you, Susie, so much for attending the seminar. What did you think about it? Blah, blah, blah. And then you try to invite them for your next thing. So webinar works exactly the same way. The only difference is you're collecting an email address. You are potentially collecting a phone number as well.
Yep.
And so you can follow up with them with the phone call as well. But email gives you a second touch point. So now you're building credibility on Facebook with Facebook Lives. You invite them to the webinar. They give you your email address. That means they are trusting you enough with some information. They're not giving you their blood work, but they're giving you just an email address to indicate that they trust you. Now, provided that email address is the right email address, they're giving you permission to communicate, which means it's like, yes, doctor, talk to me.
Yeah, right.
Right? And so with the phone number and the email address, now you can start communicating with them in the same way that you would have before. In fact, it's easier to do that because you have things like SMS that can be automated, and you could send out regular reminders. You can send out links to Facebook Live posts or YouTube posts or blog posts that you've got on your website. You can invite them for other stuff, not necessarily in-person stuff, maybe another webinar. Maybe you saw a nice article on one of the health blogs that you generally read, or maybe some news article talking about or related to a disease that they have or an issue they have. You can share that information with them. So it's actually much easier, but like we said earlier, the technology gets in the way because there's so many buttons to press, and I've got this big fat keyboard in front of me. I don't know which letter is A, and so this,
or I don't have time to do it all.
Right. We don't have time to do it all. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you think about, I mean, you're doing a lot of live. So, the suggestions, organic, consistent, persistent, live, blog post, things like that, that you can repurpose now. And this is kind of the key,
Right.
repurpose what you've already done. Because most people have tons and tons and tons of content. And it's just a
Right.
matter of now just, using it again and again and again to get your name out there and show that you are an expert. Because what a
Right.
lot of marketers kind of fail to do, and just kind of rubs me the wrong way anyway, is that it's always asking,
Right.
hey, come in for this appointment, come join my webinar. Of course, we just did that.
Right.
But but we're giving some value at the same time. So it is, making sure that people are able to understand what we do, but also they're able to do it themselves potentially. So, and the same with the doctors is give them the information that they desperately need. I mean, the reality is most people aren't going to do it on their own. And so
Right.
they are going to seek you out because now you are the expert.
Mm-hmm. Well, so there is a transition when it comes to that. So offline, when somebody sees you face to face, or you meet them in the street or at the supermarket or even at a seminar, there's a lot of physical things happening. So, let's say they meet you at a seminar, they can see your physical appearance, they can read your energy, they can just see, that trust factor is much easier to build
Yep.
because you're in the same space. And so reading energy, just you don't even have to know how to do it. You just kind of know. You get that gut feeling instantly. And the transition to online, there's a little bit more work that you have to put into doing
Yep.
your online work. So it's using a good camera or using a decent phone that has a better camera with a good internet connection to, you know, putting up your background or having your phone set up when you're doing your Facebook Lives or your webinars in a place that shows your credibility behind you. So, for
Yep.
example, one of the doctors I had suggested to, on the wall behind them, have a copy of their certificates. Put a plant in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Give it a bit of depth so that the space behind, like you're not back up against a wall where you look like you're taking a mugshot.
Right.
Those basic things. Oops, let me just adjust that. There you go. Those basic things help a ton to make you a little bit more inviting.
Yep.
And it's even with recorded content, you know, set up your video, set up your surroundings so that you're giving off that warmth.
Yep.
Hmm.
Absolutely. Yep. Because then again, it's all about the like, trust, and no like and trust factor.
No, like trust factor.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Great. So now we have leads coming in, and what do we do with them? How do we automate? And
Exactly.
yeah, it's like, do I put them in a spreadsheet? Do I? And it's pretty amazing. I mean, there's tons of technology out there that
Hmm.
enables you to communicate with your list on a regular basis. And
Hmm.
I am shocked that more and more small businesses aren't utilizing that technology. And
Hmm.
it warms my heart sometimes when I actually talk to a client or even a friend, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, I have I have an email list and I communicate with them on a weekly basis." It's like, "Oh my
Right.
gosh, that's amazing!"
Right.
Like, because so many people don't do it. So when you do it, then you're going to stand out from the
Hmm.
crowd.
Yeah.
The biggest fear is, though, that you're going to be spamming people, right? Isn't that typically what some of the clients are saying, that they fear, like, I don't want to send too many emails?
Yeah. So it comes out of, one is they're fearing what to say in the emails. And
Mm,
so they're using the excuse of spam to not send the email.
yeah,
And the second part of that is maybe they don't know how to structure the email so that it doesn't come across as spammy.
right.
Like you said earlier, people are just asking, 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 and not giving value
Yep.
enough. And so when you come from a place of value and you are creating content already, using the content in a way that is inviting and warm is again a sales skill or just a skill that people just haven't developed. So offline, again, it's easier because you're having a conversation, you're asking about their kids, you can see what they're wearing, and so you can tell, the type of person they are. Online, you have no idea who's on the
Right.
other side.
Yep.
And so it's hard to pick up on those things if you don't, one, go and research and go find your avatar, your ideal client, and
Mm-hmm.
figure out what they look like online, because chances that they do look a little different, but it's not always the case. And then the second thing is, yeah, they don't know how to structure the emails. They don't know how frequently to email so that they don't feel like it's spammy. My recommendation is always at least every couple of days or minimum one a week,
Yep.
depending on the content. So if it's an invitation or a reminder to a webinar, you want to do that more often than not, because you want to increase the likelihood that they're going to see the message and then show up. So reminders is always a funky and interesting topic, because it's like the more you remind people, the more annoying you can get. But the more reminders you send out, the more people show up to the
Of
webinar.
course.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think
Um,
people are more forgiving with that when there is content, meaning
right.
that if you are giving really good information on a regular basis, they're going to be more apt to stay on your list versus unsubscribing.
Well, well, they like it,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
They like it because they're hungry for the information. They need the help. Uh, and so finding somebody to latch onto that's actually going to be that shining beacon of hope
Yeah.
is is a good thing, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want. You want to build that tribe. You want to build that audience for yourself. And these are all buzzwords. But when you do that, you come across warm and inviting, and not like a sleazy salesman, then wow, people are actually going to show up. People are actually going to start calling you, even if it is just with a little bit of effort.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's one platform out there that a lot of people use. I use it. You use it. Active Campaign, as a
Yep.
way of organizing all of these leads. And
Hmm.
that sometimes gets people a little anxious as well. Um, but in terms of just getting down and dirty, just import the leads into that software.
Hmm.
It you could hire somebody off of Fiverr, or Burhan can do it. I could do it. I mean,
Yeah.
it
Lots of
takes
resources.
5-10 minutes to do it. But the thing is that you have to use something like that because you've already paid for all these leads
Right.
that are just kind of sitting in a database or an Excel spreadsheet. And if you're not continuously marketing to them, because a lot of people, they'll opt in for something, but it's like in the moment they've opted in for something and they're like, oh yeah, I have diabetes, and oh, this post really makes sense. Yeah, I'd love to come to the webinar. But they're not like sitting in front of their computer and going, okay, it's 5 till, let's wait for this webinar to start. Yay.
Right.
Right.
Hmm.
It's they need to be reminded, and then of course they're going to miss the webinar, and then there's nothing.
Yeah. Then there's
But there
nothing.
needs to be something.
There has to be something.
Yeah.
It's
And I
so.
actually get this quite a bit as well. A lot of the doctors are saying, well, I want people who are ready and willing to make that change in their life, and I don't want to have to go chase after them.
Right. Well, there's two things there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, you want to get the qualified leads, is what they're saying,
Hmm.
right? And that's 100% true. I totally agree with that. But that you're chasing, no, you should never be chasing.
Yeah.
It should never feel like a chasing.
Right.
Maybe it feels that way because they're doing it wrong, because they don't know how to do it differently.
Right.
So one of the solutions for that is, so one, you're saying, well, how do I overcome the technology issue? How do I get an email list into the software, Active Campaign? How do I figure out how to use the software? How do I communicate with my list in a way that's not salesy, that doesn't feel like I'm pushing all the time? These are all things that you can get help, right? You can ask somebody to pay them a little bit of money to do these things for you as a done for you service. But I would recommend that because you are behind right now, or you may not be behind right, you may not feel like you're behind right now, but putting some time every day or every couple of days or even an hour or two a week to learn how to do some of these things, not to be a marketer. We're not saying like change your profession from being a medical professional to being a marketer. We're not
Right.
saying that. What we're saying is figure out how to use the basics of the online stuff so that you can actually send an email on your own to your list,
Hmm.
like so that you can go live on YouTube or Facebook to do your own content, so that you're not dependent all the time on somebody. And it's not, like I said, like you don't have to figure out Facebook advertising because that's a skill on its own, but the basics of what you need to do online to not necessarily to even make $1 million, but just to show up.
Yeah.
That's the basic that's required.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And it's continuously giving that content, because then, when you do make the ask, then they're going to be more likely to take advantage
Right.
of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In my fitness business that I had for 10 years, I had people, I do seminars every month as well. And I remember one seminar, I always ask people, like, how'd you hear about the seminar? And this one lady was like, oh, I've been on your list for like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And she's,
Yeah.
got content from me every week for 3 years. And then finally,
Mm-hmm.
something triggered her to actually make a change. I
Right.
wasn't chasing her. I was just giving content. Then she came and signed up for a year of training. So,
Right.
yeah.
When that happens, it's always interesting because, and it's good that you ask the question. So you're asking for feedback from
Mm-hmm.
people. And that's also something that's important because when you ask for feedback, whether it's on a webinar where you're live and people are actually giving you engagement, that they're
Mm-hmm.
engaging with you, or even on a Facebook Live or these type of even on your posts, like some people may comment on your posts, like go reply to them, ask them questions, like have a conversation.
Yep.
uh, when you ask those type of questions, you start getting information back, and then you can start using that information to make better content, right?
Yep.
Because if your audience is telling you what they want, then that makes it super simple for you to come up with ideas. You don't even have to, they're giving you the ideas. All you have to do is build that story around that content, around that question, and then boom, you've got like a 5 minute video for YouTube. You've got a 10-minute
Yeah.
thing or something to add into your webinar that's going to be relatable to them because those are the things they're asking. So speak about that.
Okay.
And you would normally do that in a conversation in the mall anyway. If somebody walked up to you and said, hey, I have this thing, like, how do I fix it? You'd give them the advice right away. It's the same process.
Absolutely. And so I'm just putting that in the comments here on Facebook so that people have that. Ask questions on social media, what they are seeking, and
Nice.
you get more content. That's awesome. And it further makes you the expert, right?
Mhm.
So you're getting leads. Now we're automating the kind of the communication with those leads, and that comes in many different forms. But the simple down and dirty is at least weekly communication of something that is going to help them solve their problem.
Right. And
And
the word automation you spoke about there is it's we're wanting to build a system so that when the leads come in and they show some interest, or maybe they call the office
mm,
and they're interested in something, you want to use your list or be able to use your list in a way that now you can start separating people like you would in a phone book or in your Rolodex or your whatever book
yep,
that you're using to manage your business, where you would use a highlighter to say, oh, Susie called me on so and so date, I need to follow up with her and you need to like confirm an appointment date or
right,
whatever. Like the same way you'd want the technology to support you with that. And this, especially inside of Active Campaign and other tools, there's lots of resources to do that. And when those things happen, you can have automatic emails going out based on what you've done. So for example, if you just use a simple tagging system, not even a
Mm-hmm.
CRM, if you use a simple tagging system where if somebody came in as a webinar registrant and they showed up, you tag them as being as showed up, and when you tag them with that tag, an automatic email can go out to say thank you for attending the webinar. It's literally that simple.
Yep.
And the email will fill in their name depending on how you write instruct to the email. It'll fill in their name, it'll fill in the webinar name that they actually came for. It'll, send them the email at the right time, not middle of the night when you're working on your stuff. um, like all of these little things can be automated in a way that is still personal. It's not, the other person on the other side might know that you're using a system, but people understand that doctors are busy.
Yep.
People, when they come into your office or they go to somebody else, another doctor's office, they know, they can see that you're stressed. They can see that you're short of time. They know that when you do your Facebook live or you do a post in the middle of the night, it's because you didn't have time during the day. And so when you're showing up using these tools with emails, they think you're amazing. They think you're Superman. They think you're Superwoman because, hey, how do you manage to do all of this stuff? But meanwhile, there's systems that can help you organize your time and save you time in the long run.
Yeah. And one of the great things that you pointed out there too is that when you segment your list, now you can talk to people about a specific problem that they might have. So if
Right.
you're working with diabetes, thyroid, hormone, like if people are interested in one of those three things, now you can have a list specific for diabetes, and now you can speak
Right.
directly to that rather
Right.
than somebody that's really interested in hormone issues. They're getting the stuff on diabetes, like, oh, I'm not really into that, and so
Right.
they may, delete the emails or unsubscribe and things like that. But
Right.
um, segmenting is really, really, it's actually pretty easy to do as well.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, so there's a thing there where with the medical thing, with HIPAA compliance and how much information you store in the CRM or inside of Active Campaign, if you don't want to do that, you can just isolate or categorize their problems as in weight loss, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you're not saying the direct issue they have, but it's they've spoken to you about weight loss, or they've spoken to you about back pain, or knee pain, or like general broad problems that you would generally have seen, and this from practicing for all these years, using those tags, and then you know the system can be set up that way as well.
Yep. Absolutely. So now we have leads coming in. We're communicating with those leads multiple times other than just once. And we're putting them into a funnel, so to speak, where they're
Mhm.
getting drip information that's content that is going to help them in their daily life. And now the third part is converting them.
Mm-hmm.
And there's several different ways that you can convert people. Um, the first is like on the webinar itself, right?
Right, right. And so the same way that you would on a seminar, when you'd ask them for to join your program or ask them to book a follow-up call where you're actually now going to sit one-on-one with them, the same thing can be done with a webinar.
Yep. Yeah.
Where now that people are spending 35, 45, 50 minutes with you on the webinar, learning from you on the content that you're sharing in the webinar, then it's kind of you want to take them forward, you want to help them, you want to give them, one is you have to ask for, you have to instruct them on what to do. So this
Yep.
is why in YouTube videos or in on Facebook, we always say, hit the subscribe button or follow the page. The reason we do that is because people do need instructions. It's just one of those things that as a marketer or as anybody that makes content, to grow your following, you have to ask let's say that again. To grow your following, to build that audience, you have to ask people to follow you. It seems salesy, but it's just something we have to do because people generally don't follow instructions. The same way you would tell somebody, hey, take your pills 2 times a day. There's a reason why on prescription medication it says take 2 per day at this time. It's super clear, it's super simple. And if they didn't write that, people wouldn't take the medication. It's
Right.
just as simple as that. So when you're asking people to book a discovery call, or pay for a one-on-one PME booking to do some, to take their issue forward, to try to help them a little bit deeper.
Yep.
That's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely just kind of reiterate that point that people do need that direction, and they need to be told what to do, because most people are followers, and they're like, well, okay, well, you're the doctor, you tell me what I need to do. You've already established yourself as the expert. Now it doesn't have to come off as salesy at all. Right. It's just, look, you've learned what you need to do. Clearly in an hour, you're not going to solve all your issues. So the next step is to figure out kind of, is this program the right fit for you? And would you be a good fit for the program? So you make it that it's an interview on both sides. Mm-hmm. And if you want to do that, then schedule the call down below, or schedule, I'm putting a link up on the webinar right now. Schedule the call, and we will, myself or my wellness coordinator will talk to you for 10, 15 minutes and figure out if this is a good fit. Then we can go forward from there.
And I would argue that the doctors actually have a leg up.
Oh, because, absolutely.
They just put on the coat, have the stethoscope around the neck, and it's like automatically people are going to be like, oh, you're a doctor, I need help. Yeah. It's kind of automatic. It's a subconscious thing. Like when you see a businessman walking in Wall Street with a suit and tie, you kind of automatically gravitate to, hey, he must be a stockbroker or some sort of a, in that that's what he does. Yep. So doctors have that already, that visual, like, hey, this is who I am. And then on top of that, they've got these mega titles that are after their name, right? So they start with doctor, obviously, and then there's MD or whatever the things are that comes after. And so that automatically puts you on a totally different playing field, where the trust factor is already high just because you have a title and you look like a doctor. Then there, now it's like, okay, well, can this doctor help me with is the doctor sensitive to what I have, or to who I am, or to my lifestyle, or to my situation? Yep. And so I would say that's actually easier. And you made a very good point earlier when, they're looking to the doctors for help, the same way that somebody would approach me for help with their digital marketing, or for the, setting up all the online stuff, because I talk in that way that I think I know what I'm doing. It's easier for people to just ask for help, right? And it's because I'm telling them, like, I'm here for help. I'm here to help you. Yep. And it's the same thing with your business. It's like, hey, will you call my leads? Yeah, okay, let's do it. Like, this is what I do.
Yeah, 100%. And that's, going back to the credibility that doctors have now, and the market is shifting a little bit in terms of now. 10 years ago, like, and a lot of doctors couldn't market at all because they thought it was unethical to do so. Right. But they didn't have to search for leads. You put a ad in not even an ad, just put a listing of your plaque up above your door, open for business, and you would get people coming in. Versus now, people have a choice. And especially the way that insurance is, that it basically pays for treatment of problems. And so you have to be sick already. And a lot of people want to take control of their health. And so now it's a matter of getting people to understand that they have to be more proactive with their health, and they're going to have to spend some money at it. So now when you add that component to it, Now people are getting a little bit more picky about who they want to go after. And that's why having that content and showing up on a regular basis, those first two steps will make this third step so much easier. That people will,
emails out.
Yeah, people are going to come to you. You're not going to have to chase people down. And I would never suggest chasing people down. I think what it ends up being is, do some warm outreach to people that are on the list to see if they're still interested. What are they interested in, and get some good intelligence to figure out what else that you can put out there to further elevate your credibility and the amount of information that you provide to people, so that they will seek you out when they're ready.
Right. Well, I wanna sort of emphasize that, because you just brushed over it and you said, people are looking to get, live a healthier lifestyle. Now this year, 2020, because of COVID, because of bull, all the bull that's going out over the internet, and just everything that's going on, people are at home. They're trying to eat healthier because, like, hey,
Or not.
sitting on the couch and eating, or not, sure, but the general trend is that people are trying to be more conscious of their
Yep.
bodies.
Yep.
And because of that trend, now is the best time, not only for your own well-being, but it's like when people are hungry for the help, now you can meet them where they are and help them the way you can.
Yep.
And so the internet also gives you this ability to help more people, help many more people. And just because you're saying one-on-one, you're still having one-on-one consultations and PMEs
Yep.
and one-on-one people coming into your program, but the technology allows you to create a different level. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you have one-on-one consultations, obviously those are clients who have the means, they have the money, the resources to actually show up to do that with you. But for others, maybe they're just needing a little bit of content, so there's the free stuff. Or maybe
Yep.
they need a program, like, hey, I just want to lose a little bit of weight. I don't want to take the advice from a personal trainer who's trying to get me to go to the gym. Like, can't you just give me some better eating habits? Can't you just
Yep.
give me some tips on how to actually do stuff that I need? And because it's coming from a doctor's point of view, somebody who's got more credibility, not to say that personal trainers are not credible, but it comes from a different, angle. That's the content that you can give them, and so that can be delivered in a course, maybe online. It could be done through webinars, it could be done through a Facebook group. There's lots of different ways to meet them where they are, depending on how many resources, how much time they have, and how much money they have.
Yep. Oh, that's good. I just made a note. Conversions for different levels of people, because most of the folks that I'm working with, they have one offer,
Right.
and the more tiered offers that you have, the more people you'll be able to help. But
Right.
obviously, there needs to be a price difference there, because not everybody's going to be able to afford the one-on-one help that most
Right.
people actually do need. But
Mhm.
or they're still skeptical a little bit. It's like, oh, let me find out a little bit more about this person, and so they'll drop $100 on a course, a detox course, or a 26-day challenge, whatever,
Right.
22 and a half day challenge, and they'll do that, and they'll go through it, and they're like, wow, this is really great advice. Let me find the
Check
money
this out.
to do the next step.
Right. And so again, each step is uh, another level of trust, if you want to
Mm-hmm.
look at that way. Like, I think a lot of doctors, especially in the US, are going for the high ticket. They're going for the $5,000-$6,000 programs
Absolutely.
right off the bat, because it seems like to them, and this is everybody has the same problem, that the high ticket is the quickest way to make a living.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've seen in my business, working with my dad in his supermarket and wholesale business for years and years in retail, and then coming online and just doing the basic things every single day and showing up and being consistent with my clients, is, even though certain things may be less valuable in terms of maybe $100 course, $200 course, $300 course, or maybe even an ebook that's $20, or maybe a published, properly published book for
Mm-hmm.
$10, might not seem like high value, but when you're now meeting people at their level of resources, where they're at that level of trust also, where they just want to get the $10 book to figure out who you are, to suss you out, and then then they want to go to the book, to the course, and
Yeah.
then they'll book the PME, and then they'll come into your
Yep.
program. These are all levels of trust where it takes, on average, this is according to Google, 7 touch points to get people to actually start engaging with you, to start
Absolutely.
converting with you. And
Yeah.
so let's go through the motions. So you've got Facebook Live, you've
Yep.
got maybe a couple of posts that they're going to see on Facebook, a couple of posts that they're going to see on Instagram. Now they on your email list, so they opt in for something, they come for a webinar. So that's another touch point. You're sending them the reminders for the webinars. That's a touch point. You're sending follow-ups after the webinars.
Yeah.
That's a touch point. So by that time already you've hit the 7. And so asking them to convert into a client, even if it's a small client for a course, they're ready. At that point, they're ready. And then it may take another 7 touch points from that point to book them into the program, your high ticket
Yeah.
program. But now you're in front of them. They've already given you some money. And so they've given you permission to ask them for more money,
Yep.
and they're asking for more help.
Absolutely. Yep. And when you have this structured absolutely perfectly, or not even perfectly, just doing it. I mean, yeah. I mean, the way that you just laid that out, getting the 7 touch points is super easy. I mean, we're seeing at the call center that it's taking about 10 attempts to get somebody on the phone
Okay.
just to book an appointment that they requested in the first place.
Right.
So it's crazy. And the other thing is, automation is all fine and great, all about automation and people seeking you out. And those are the ones that are going to be like really good conversions. They're going to go through the funnel. They're going to be there. And that's what, 50%, 60%, 70%, whatever the percentage is, but there's still other people that, one, don't like the technology.
Sure.
They are skeptical of anything that goes on in the internet because aliens control it, or whatever the conspiracy theory is.
Right.
And they're not going to put any of their, maybe they'll put their phone number and an email address in there, but they're going to be very skeptical. And it's until they get either that phone call or a personalized text message or something like that, that's going to prompt them to then take an action. Or they're just super busy.
Or they're just super busy. Life is in the way.
Yeah. And they're like, yes, I need to do that. Because I can't tell you how many times I'm like, I really need to do something, but it's, on the priority list, it's in the mid to bottom. Yeah. But until somebody prompts me to do it, then it's like, oh, okay, well, I probably should, book that appointment with the doctor because, I haven't seen my dentist in a year and probably need to go see a dentist here one of these days.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is, when you're in person, back in the day, it's easier to say back in the day now, but
back 10 months ago.
Right. It's easy to create that experience for somebody. So, when you're doing your little classified ad, or you're doing your ad somewhere in a magazine or a newspaper or whatever, you have a good quality picture, you have somebody who's done the ad that's, been doing it for years, they know how to do the ad. So that's the first sort of experience they have of you. They come into your practice and there's, your logo on the wall, or on the front, you've got your sign up with your phone number on the door. They automatically are being welcomed into this warm environment. You've got sand tone colors or warm colors, not white bright lights. You've got, you know, an inviting atmosphere. And so that experience is what people are getting when they're in person. Online, it's actually harder to replicate, but actually not that difficult to pull off if you have the right things in place. So like I said, to recap, when you're doing your content, do it in a way that's showing your credibility. Wear your coat, put the stethoscope on, just these little, maybe your certificates in the background, maybe even a banner with your business name or whatever behind you. Then when you're inviting them into, or maybe they join your webinar being on professional with a good camera, a good microphone, that you sound good. And then when you send your emails, like, have your logo in the email, write your emails in a way that's warm and inviting. Don't use text that's going to look funky, that's comical, and that's not professional. Like, I think all of these things are sort of par for the course, but when it comes to technology, people lose their minds, and so
Yep.
they don't know what to do, and they click the wrong buttons. And so sticking to those basics of, well, I can replicate the same way I would send an email to a client, just because it's in active campaign, sending to a list, it's the same email. And if you just focus on the one person that you're speaking to, as opposed to thinking of, oh, I've got 3,000 people on my list, what am I going to say to all of them? No, you're talking to one person at a
Talk
time.
to one
Still
person.
think of
Yep.
it that way.
Yeah. Your
And
avatar that everybody always talks about. Who's your ideal client and how do you talk to them? And that's a really great tip that, whatever content, I always, have my avatar in front of me. Like if I'm writing an email or blog post or something like that, is like, okay, I'm talking to this person. And when you do that, then it's going to come across as a lot more personal.
a lot more personal.
A lot
Right.
more personal. Yeah. Cool.
And that's subconscious. It's not even planned.
Yeah.
It happens on its own.
Yeah. Cool. So we have these conversions that are happening. People are opting in. One thing that I get complaints on, or not complaints, but struggles that some people have. Now I have all these leads and appointments. How do I sift and sort through them to make sure then I sit in front of or the right people, or they get no shows and things like that. And that's where, like our call service really can help out, is sifting and sorting through all kind of the tire kickers, because you're going to get a certain number of people that, I had one doctor that said, well, this person just wanted to talk to me about all the medications that she was on and wasn't really interested in learning about how to get off the medication. Well,
Okay.
that's not always a good source of, good way of spending your time as the doctor, is to sift and sort through who should be on the call. And that's something that that we're working on. Is actually a new service, is to do the pre-qualification and to then book the paid visit with the doctor, so that the doctor has somebody that's invested some money already sitting in front of them. So then converting them into the long-term program makes it really a lot easier.
Right. Well, you bring up an interesting point there, because my mind was running on, like, if somebody is taking medication, they just want to figure out their medication. Surely there was a time in their life where they were happy not to take the medication.
Yeah.
It's like, if somebody is happy with taking the medication, they need to be reminded, and this is part of like the sales
The sales. Yeah, absolutely.
strategies, the
Yep.
sales side of reminding the person that, hey, there was a time in their life where they didn't have to remember to take their medication every day.
Yeah.
Like, some of the technology in the health space that exists can help with these things, and some people are just not aware. And as a doctor, what technology exists, what's possible. You've helped a bunch of people before, and learning how to communicate that on the internet to a camera, to a phone, is important, because people need the information, and they're being fed a lot of the wrong information as well. There's a lot of people that are not saying the right things. They're not being ethical. They're not being moral. And it's, if you are one of those doctors that are in that space where you want people to do the right thing because you're doing the right thing and you're trying to do right by them, then it's even more important to show up. And one other thing that I just wanted to go back to building the email list. It's I don't think that building an email list is stressed as much as it should be.
Yeah.
The reason why people need an email list is because email is the one medium that is not going away. It's the one thing that's been consistent for the last 15 or 20 years now, maybe a bit longer, that just hasn't changed much. Like systems have come in and out. Before we had older services, but now we've got Gmail, we've got all these very stable, very inbred tools that people are very familiar with. It's easy to use. Everybody knows how to send an email. Where we hope that everybody knows how to send an email.
Right.
And because it's your list, because it's your asset, you can, even if your active campaign falls down, or even if Facebook falls down, or Instagram falls down, or YouTube, or any of these outside platforms that you don't have control over, fall
Yes.
down, the one thing that's stable that you have control over is your email.
Yep.
And who you communicate to, and your telephone book. Like at the end of the day, people who are giving their phone number over a webinar or to register for a webinar, as long as those phone numbers are the right phone numbers, then that's the default. Like that's the stability of your business.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and so many online marketers are glossing over the fact that there's so much value in that list, but also even the phone number. I mean, the phone's still active and it still works because people crave that human connection. Plus, it's a lot easier to just delete an email than it is to ignore a phone call or a text message.
Correct.
So,
telephone calls are actually more intrusive as well.
Yeah, well, they are, yes.
Disruptive.
But at the same time, if it's information that they're seeking, then it's great.
It's just to give a stat, like people who send Facebook Messenger posts, so reminders via Messenger. On Messenger, we can measure the open rates. So like with SMS, you don't really know what the open rates are.
Right.
But with Messenger, you can. And so people are saying there's 80, 90, 70% open rates on those messages because it's similar to text. It's, Facebook Messenger and WhatsApp and these tools have basically mimicked text for a reason. It's because the open rates are ridiculous.
Yep.
And so using that to your advantage to send reminders to make sure people, like, even for example, if you've got somebody in your program already, sending them a text message once a week to remind them of the thing that they needed to do for you, like maybe they needed, or once a month they need to go do blood work, or once a month they need to just check their heart rate on their Apple Watch, like whatever the case may be, and log it into your app or send you the email with that data. Whatever those things are, sending via SMS, Messenger, email are the best ways to communicate, the best ways to remind. And that added level of service, like I said, can all be automated and is appreciated by your clients, because
absolutely,
if they have to do it on their own, it's difficult. It's harder for them. But if the doctor is saying, hey, I keep using Susie. Hey, Susie, today's remember, I need you to get done. Like, that's like gold for them.
Yeah. And that will keep the customer for life, the patient for life, right?
For as long as they're alive. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Or as long as, or they'll just refer more people, which is again the whole point, as well as building the business.
Right.
So cool. So just kind of wrapping up here. So we got the first piece, which is getting leads in the door. The second is, once you get them in, how do you automate them? And so we have some tips and tricks on how to do that and some resources to do that. I put links in the comments as well. And then the third is, now you have those leads, converting them becomes very easy if you've done the first two pieces right, because now people are actually asking for what they want. And sometimes you need to prompt them to take an action, which is usual the case, is people need to be told what to do. So the 3 points there: get the leads, automate it, and then convert as well. And put some comments down below in terms of some of the nuggets that I was taking notes of. So those are in the comments on Facebook under this live video. Any final words of wisdom, Burhan?
Well, I guess it's our turn to ask people to do something. So if you've watched thus far, and you're curious about how to get all of this implemented, maybe you're struggling with time, or you're struggling with the technology, or you're just not quite sure because you're being bombarded with messages of, hey, sign up to my email program, there's a ton of programs and applications out there. If you need the advice, if you need the help, jump on a discovery call with us. Tom, the link is
businessleadmaximizer.com/schedule a call. And I put that into the comment. So it's right there.
Yeah. So check that link out. And let's have a chat. Like, there's no sales pitch. There's just, let's figure out how to help. And what, it's like I said earlier, help with some of the stuff, help you to get going, put the basics in place for you, but then also teach you how to do those basic things so that you're not, tied to a chain to us or to anybody else. And let's have a conversation.
Awesome. Yes. So the links down in the comments. Happy to spend some time just going over what's going on in the business, and then make some suggestions on solving the problems.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for being here.